Susanna, I would love to hear
Yeah.
what you would do with that case study. That would be really helpful.
Ooh, okay, sure. I'm going back to that page. Where did she go? Ah, there she is. Okay, right. First session of abundant documentation. So what I'm going to share with you is what I would do, but also what I have done. Um, I notice that there's a part of me that gets triggered when people come with, here, I want to show you all the documentation, and here I want to da 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 da. That feels very close to home for me. So I notice that I start to vibrate a little bit, and I notice that there's a part of me that wants to say, and has in the past said, oh, we don't need all that, or we don't need to look at that, or anything like that. But what I've learned is that what that's doing is that's dismissing a very important part of them that needs to be heard and seen and validated and viewed as competent. So I really go, really, first of all, House of this is like, thank you. That is amazing. You amazing. That's like an overused word, but that's so great. I really appreciate all of the thought and time you put into all that. Thank you. We'll press pause on that for now and come back to it, but thank you, or send it to me in email. We'll come back to it. So I'll like really make sure to praise and give a lot of gratitude and really see that part of them that wants to come with all the things, but not allow that to just take over is, I think, the first thing I would do. What do you want from this session? She doesn't know and asks what I should focus on. When clients say that to me, I say, I don't know. I'm like, well, what would help you know? Or what would it be like to know? Or what would be getting in the way? What's getting in the way of you knowing? I've never had to do this, but if need be, I can refer back to, I know it's hard. It's hard to think of a topic. And this is part of what needs to come to the session, that part of what you need to bring to the session so we can be successful. It's in the contract, basically. And I hold that lightly, because sometimes people, right off the bat, because of personality types, right? Not everybody knows right away, and they need to kind of go on a little journey, and that's fine. But I won't take the bait. And even though there's parts of me that would love to just tell them what to do, I go, no, this is not what we're doing here. We're letting them do it. Presses me for advice about whether or not to apply for promotion. I've gotten really good at going, doing the coaching thing there. Like, well, what attracts you about that? What, and if they really, if a client really presses me for advice, one thing I say is, what would be different for you if I gave you my opinion? Or how would my opinion affect you? Or how, these are not very elegantly worded, but something along the lines of, what difference would my opinion make for you? So exploring more what need would be met in you if I answered that, or what impact would my opinion have, as opposed to just giving the answer. So that, I found that to be a very effective redirect. She always wanted to be a novelist. She's trying to save money so she can quit and write full time, but her family requires increasing financial support. So this is where I bring in my DEI, anti-racism, along with the trauma informed. So like, there's a part of me that wants to say, and might say, depending on the additional nuances with Pauline, so I hear you saying you want to be a novelist and you're a writer, and it sounds like you're very creative, and I see you in this corporate setting. What sense do you make of that? What might feel to some like a disconnect? What meaning do you make of the fact that this is what you want and this is where you are? That's one part of me wants to ask that, and that might be a line of inquiry. And there's another part of me that goes, this is a person, and in the case study, it purposely doesn't tell you race or ethnicity. But especially if this is a person of color or this is a class migrant, I'm going, what's likely here is that there are community, financial, and family burdens that are priority over her going for her goals or being her best self. And that is not something that I'm going to talk her out of. That's not my job. However, it could be a moment to kind of go, your family requires increasing financial support. How does that, what would you be, what are you, checking for connection and rapport? I would want to hear more about that. Like, what would you be willing to share there around the financial support? Or how does that increasing financial support play into your life choices at this stage in your life? Or kind of inviting more curiosity and more sort of reflection around her reality, her ecology. She struggles to identify what she wants to explore, any broader coaching goals in her second session. So, sometimes I call the client out, sometimes I let it go because it's only the second session and I don't know if it's a pattern yet. So kind of feeling into the situation, I may or may not say, yeah, so you took on this commitment to yourself last time and it looks like you didn't have a chance to follow through. What got in your way? Again, without blame, but also kind of acknowledging that this was their commitment. They didn't follow through. What got in the way? What do we need to unpack there? Sometimes I have that direct conversation. Sometimes I let it go and hold it lightly and kind of see how it, plays out, because as we all know, this is a case study and there are nuances and subtleties that are not here that we would only know in the moment. It's the art of the coaching. She's still struggling. She remarks that maybe she's not leadership material, starts to cry. There's some appeasement happening here. There's definitely some yellow and red happening here. She's apologizing, so she's appeasing. The process is rigged because her boss is sexist. So again, bringing together my DEI, anti-racist, anti-sexist with trauma, I'm not going to talk her out of it. It's very likely that her workplace is sexist. Most are. It could be that her boss is a misogynist or not. I don't know, but it could be. So I'm not going to instantly go into, oh, it's probably not that. Where's your resourcefulness and your choice in the midst of this really effed up situation? I'll go, oh, wow, like that sounds really awful. Like, what are you noticing? And then I'll invite the client into noticing the data. So this can be really helpful with clients that are showing trauma responses. It's like, not challenging them that that's real or not, but just inviting them, what's the data? And sometimes I use that actual word, like, what are the behaviors you're noticing? What leads you to think your boss might be sexist? Because he may be a raving misogynist and now there's something there we've got to work with. Or maybe it's just, well, because they never pick me. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that sounds really messed up. Like, what else are you noticing? What other data? Right? So just being really careful not to talk them out of it. Because that's a form of resistance, not to contradict them. Like, their reality is their reality. They are having the experience they're having. So what other awareness might serve that client? What else do they want to discover about themselves in there? She doesn't know what to focus on. She apologizes again. She's appeasing. You offer an observation that she struggles to commit to what she wants and seems resistant to change. So that's an ouchie. Client, you really struggle to commit and seem resistant to change. Now, we may be thinking that, but that's a trauma response. So that may mean that we do have a conversation at some point, but maybe while she's appeasing is not the time to bring that up, because she's already appeasing you. And then we say, you struggle to commit and you're resistant to change. We've now created more of a power distance. So, I mean, what I would do is not to say that. I would like make a note and go, note to self. So, her canceling her remaining sessions are her no. That's her resistance. She went away. She got triggered. I cough and she offers to reschedule because I'm not feeling well. So she's really appeasing me now. So she's feeling very much under threat. So what might happen there is something like, Yeah, Pauline, I just really hear you struggling. I really hear you struggling in a lot of ways. You're not sure what to focus on today. What would be a good use of our time? I've had coaching sessions where the client can't figure out a topic or an outcome the entire session, and yet they leave a better person than when they arrived. Maybe that's too broad of a statement. I'm not, maybe it's not a better person, but they leave feeling just a little bit more resourced because they were heard for an hour. And I wish it were different, but that's where a lot of people are at right now, is what I'm finding. And if I'm really checking myself and I am like really committed to the whole letting go of my own agenda of what I think should be happening and how I want to be coaching and what being a good coach or what coaching is supposed to look like. So they got heard for an hour. They cried for 30 minutes and they don't have any other place to do that in their life. And please don't take this as I do that. These are all the things I do all the times at all the sessions. No, I'm not perfect, but I'm a lot better than I was. So I know that was a monologue, but how is all of that resonating or landing or what's coming up? Okay.
Yeah,
And the question here about,
really helpful to hear you talk about it all. Thank you.
you're welcome. Yeah. Thank you for taking me on that journey. It's been a while since I dug into this case study this way, so I appreciate that. Yeah. I was just going to add, there's a question here about what might you do differently before, during, and after. I think the before there needed to be a little more intake. So there's that piece maybe. And then the after, I would just reach out and go, I would just reach out and try to, say, I'm not entirely happy with how I showed up in our last call. And I noticed you didn't reschedule. Would you be willing to have another chat? Or something like that, because if she went away after that, might have been, and maybe it's also not a fit. Maybe it's just a no, thank you very much. But I think after I would try to reach out again. So, yeah. And not just go, resistant client, you are banished.